Earth, 2019. Dominant species, human. Galactic potential rating, 0. Cultural affiliation, combination of government and global businesses, corporatism, legacy institution. Species still conservative, superstitious, and religious. Ecologically illiterate, largely unaware of cosmological foundation of love. Level of technological dependence is disturbingly higher than the galactic standard. Species distracted and behavior controlled by technology companies. System error. Advanced concepts detected beyond normal human levels. New galactic potential rating, over 9,000. Transmission type, podcast. Host, the Man of Tomorrow. Brian Sovryn. Source, Sovryn Tech.
Galactic potential rating over 9,000, baby. It is the Golden Stallion, the Man of Tomorrow, Sabzu, the rated R radio star, the thriller that is Sobzilla, ready to get into some Sovryn Tech this week. And I know that it sure as fuck doesn't feel like the galactic potential rating for humanity is over 9,000. But fuck, maybe someday. I'll tell you one thing that's not going to make that happen. That's 5G, which we're going to talk about here in just a second. Woo, I bet you're wondering. You're saying, baby, first off, why the hell is the Golden Stallion so loud? No, let me back off of this mic just a little bit, because the mic is hot, and I am feeling it right now, even though we're on Ice Planet Zero here in New Hampshire, baby. But I know what you're all really wondering. Where, oh where, has Sovryn Tech been this week? Well, don't worry. It's still the week, and you're still getting Sovryn Tech, and if you think I'm going to skip a week, think again. Because you know that the Man of Tomorrow never goes cheap. Not on this. And so you'll be getting a couple episodes pretty quick in between each other. But let me assure you that there's a very good reason why this is. And that is because the Man of Tomorrow has been cooking up something so hot that, well, it took time. and I'm kind of still cooking it up. But you're going to hear about it a little bit later in the show. But let's just say that Sovryn Tech isn't just growing. I mean, the numbers keep going up and up. The amount of listeners, I can't thank all of you enough for sharing the show, for getting other people on board with the show. I can feel it. I can see it in the numbers. Those 5 digits, baby, they've been going strong for years, and I love it. And we just keep growing. But no, Sovryn Tech's going to, well, I actually... a lot of really, well, let's just call it. A lot of asshats like to use this phrase, but no, I mean it. We're going to a whole other level, baby. And all I'm going to say is it's called Zomia 1. And wait until you hear about it. I'm not going to spoil it right now. All right. But because we got a hell of a subject to get into in the opening here. But man, this is an episode where, frankly, maybe I'll save it for the next episode. I don't know. It seems like every day there is just more and more shit getting lobbed onto, getting reported about, getting put out there about the absolutely heinous actions that Facebook is engaging in on a daily basis. And frankly, it's been doing so for years and it just keeps coming out more and more and more. In fact, I'm kind of wondering if the Oculus Quest, which, Oculus, unfortunately, and I do say unfortunately, even though since John Carmack's still there, I still kind of trust the company. Oculus is owned by Facebook, but I think they've even been pushing off the release of the Oculus Quest because, they're trying to manage their PR right now, and they fucking can't. It's goddamn dumpster fire. So we could talk about that all week this week. Anyway, I did notice that Messenger finally has a dark mode. Woo, dark mode! All praise to dark mode. Because that's a feature, that's something to get all hot and bothered about. Anyway, I did notice that maybe next week because I could just go an hour strong just talking about all of the news that has come out in the past week and a half, just the past week about Facebook. But we're not going to do that. What I want to talk about this week, opening the show up here. Okay. And we're going to try to get as many segments as we can because there's a lot. I don't want to just rip. Well, what I'm about to talk about is going to rip on just about every tech giant and honestly, a lot of tech companies. Okay. But I don't think that just Facebook is going to get ripped on here. There's going to be a lot. And there are some stories that I've been prepping for a while that I think a lot of interesting news has come out about. So, maybe we'll get to cover that. But let's see how much time this is all going to take. But the opening salvo that I have here is a technology that honestly smacks very much of, there's these terms that make the rounds in the tech world in general. Okay. For example, cloud, which fuck the cloud, but cloud. Okay. Cloud computing, cloud, whatever, put cloud in front of anything and suddenly, you've got a hot technology. Machine learning is another one of these terms that gets bantied about. That's supposed to mean something. AI. People love AI, and that's the most confusing perhaps of them all. Another one that, of course, I'm actually a huge fan of and report on regularly every week, if I can help it, is blockchain. I love blockchain, especially good old Bitcoin, baby. Woo! There's just these terms and suddenly, people will slap these things on and it's supposed to get investors that would seem to have more money than sense. Actually, I've talked to some of them and that's absolutely true. Or VCs perhaps, or whatever they want to fucking call themselves. Okay. They even have their own new terms that they like to banty about because, eventually, their reputations catch up with them. It's like, okay, stop calling me investor. Now call me a VC. No, don't call me a VC anymore. Call me a venture something. But whatever. Okay. Anyway, not necessarily the latest term to go around, but a term that is making the rounds is 5G. Now, we've reported on this that companies like AT&T and others have been saying, we have 5G. We're rolling out 5G this year. And it was like 2016 or something. And no, they weren't rolling out 5G. Not like the actual technical standard that is 5G. And finally, we do have a technical standard that is 5G, what that actually means. And this is a technology that will pretty much see its first early adopter rollouts really in the coming month. Actually, April 2019, I think, is the official date for this rollout. Now, we're talking about as far as speeds with 5G. Again, this is just the latest, digital cellular technology. Okay. It's a successor to 4G, LTE, WiMAX, all that. Okay. It's a successor to that. And, companies are just running wild with saying, we got 5G, or this phone's going to have 5G, or this has 5G, blah, blah, blah. Are you going to have to buy a new smartphone when 5G becomes a real thing, like an actual real 5G, not some horseshit marketing that AT&T put up? The government organization known as AT&T, put on you. Are you going to have to do that? Yes. This isn't something where people are just going to slap on an adapter. It's a funny thing. Actually, a lot of improvement in speeds technologies, that's not a technical term, but have been announced or are making the rounds now, like USB 4. That is becoming a standard. In fact, honestly, I would have skipped right to 5 because you're going to get a lot of jokes about B4. As in before, BEFORE, even though it's, USB and then the number 4. But, me, a guy who actually has spent time in the PR and marketing space and advertising space, I think about these things. How is this going to sound to the lowest common denominator? And USB 4 there's going to be, maybe not with the lowest common denominator, but lowest common denominator amongst tech savvy people. I think there's going to be a lot of memes and jokes. Maybe you could say that that's free marketing, but honestly, I would have stayed away from it. Now, the irony is, and a lot of people don't realize this, the potential to just add on, say, a 5G adapter. Now, let's be clear. 5G is okay. All right. Here's just describing 5G is a complex situation because you can lay out the raw numbers of what 5G can do. This is related to USB 4. There's a point I want to get to here. 5G, you can lay out the raw numbers and it looks very impressive. But the thing is how it actually achieves the speeds that get laid out. It is very much a different type of connectivity than, say, straight 4G or something along those lines. It would have been kind of fitting to have like USB 5 and 5G getting released around the same time. Not that I expect actual USB 4 devices to be out there often, but anyway, let's lay out the number that everybody gives a shit about. Everything else is, pretty much tea leaves, but even this is kind of well, I'll explain why this number really doesn't mean much. Okay. But 5G, see, there I go, getting confused myself. 5G is capable of 20 gigabits per second. Okay. Now that is approximately 100 times faster than 4G. All right. Than the latest standard of 4G. That is also significantly faster than the bulk of even the high-speed cable internet that is out there. Of course, you're already hearing companies like T-Mobile and others saying, we are going to solve ISP and cable television problems by taking advantage of 5G. Is this actually a thing that's possible? Yes, we will explain why. Because 5G isn't just like this radio wave that just allows for this incredible speed. It's taking advantage of other technologies that have been around for a little while, particularly when it comes to Wi-Fi. For example, 5G, while it's capable of 20 gigabits per second, okay, and again, 100 times faster than 4G, it's capable of that because it's taking advantage of MIMO technology. Now, MIMO is very commonplace in your laptop. Okay, and MIMO just stands for multiple input, multiple output. It means that it's able to receive from one receiver, okay, one wireless receiver. It's able to receive multiple signals and combine multiple data streams into one data stream that allows for what appears to you a faster connection. Okay, it's not that like there's one data stream, one radio wave that's transmitting at 20 gigabits per second. It's that because of MIMO, because of the ability to receive multiple at the same time, it's coming in and it appears you're receiving that data much faster. Okay, I mean, I'm trying to explain it in layman's terms how exactly this works, but that is very different. WiMAX was kind of trying to do that with 4G, but it's very different than LTE, which is just a straight powerful stream of data, okay, that is going, a singular powerful stream of data. Now, when you hear that you are going to be able to access, you're going to be able to stream data or receive data, at 100 times faster than 4G, what you're using right now, and obviously faster than most other transmission types of data, you get very excited and you're like, well, shit, of course I'm going to buy a smartphone that has 5G on it if it's 20 times faster. There's a couple of rubs with this, okay? But you're probably also complaining, well, fuck, I just bought a new phone. If 5G is available right now on whatever, telco allows for it. Again, T-Mobile's already talking about it, and not just for smartphones. They're talking about it for other devices, for other applications, okay? Implementations, I should say, not to make you think that it's for apps or something, but for implementations. Why can't I just get an adapter that isn't USB-C on my shiny new smartphone? Aren't I supposed to be able to connect a bunch of shit to that? And then, yee-hoo, I should be able to, because it's USB-C and that's the latest spec and blah, 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 I should be able to get data at that speed where I could take advantage of 5G just by putting an adapter on. No. I mean, this is something that people don't get, is that, sure, your phone might have USB-C on it, but most smartphones, that USB-C is capped off at USB 2.0, not even 3 or 3.1 or 3.2 now. That's a standard 2. Not even that. It's just at USB 2 speed. So even then, if you plugged in like a 5G adapter, you're not going to be able to take advantage of the supposed speed increase that you would get with 5G. So you have to buy a new smartphone. In my opinion, that's kind of a knock against it, especially when smartphones are getting schlepped off to you that are costing in the 4-digit range, $1,000, $2,000, whether it's the foldable phones or otherwise. And who the fuck knows how long it's going to take Apple to come out with a 5G phone. But this is all really, with 5G, that's all sort of the tip of the iceberg. Here's the rub. 5G isn't really about smartphones. It is, but it's not. And it's not about you necessarily getting your data faster. That's how they are marketing this to you. Okay. I want to kind of be brief about this, but I want you to know, I mean, I'm kind of laying it out from the beginning here. If you haven't picked up what I'm putting down, I am not a fan of 5G. I think that there are very real problems with 5G, and I'm not getting into the radioactivity problems, the electromagnetic problems and all that, or the health concerns around 5G. I'm not even going to go there. That's not, if you think that's where I'm going to go with this, you are dead fucking wrong. I have genuine concerns about 5G that have nothing to do with that. Okay. So this is not about smartphones. 5G in reality is one of the very first technologies that I can think of where it is not about the consumer. Okay. A lot of technologies that that have been put upon, say even 4G over 3G. Now there is a definite advantage. I'm going to explain where 5G actually isn't giving you an advantage as a consumer, as an individual over 4G. 3G to 4G, obviously 2G to 4G or Edge, whatever they wanted to call it, 2G originally, 3G to 4G, there are definite advantages to you as a consumer. Suddenly you are able to watch, I know everybody does it. They watch YouTube videos. You are able to watch video, in better HD. Okay. Now, one could say, well, we got to have 5G if we're going to be able to watch 4K content. Who in the goddamn fuck? And you tell me how 4K content matters on a 5-inch or hell, even a 6-inch screen. That's bullshit. It's right to call bullshit on that. There's no real difference between that and 1080p or anything else. And it's just a fucking battery drain, that QHD nonsense that's been schlepped on you. All right. That. So 4K, we've talked about this. At the end of the day, 4K is really just a way for you to become more reliant upon higher data speeds or higher data rates that, you're going to use more data every month. Okay. On your, with your ISP bill, and then Comcast can charge you per gigabyte. 4K content is an absolute fucking trap. Okay. I mean, to say nothing of the soap opera effect of looking at that video. That calls bullshit on 4K enough, right? Because, things are going faster than you can really even perceive, even if you're like a super athlete where you can see things, at a greater, you'd have a greater ability of perception. You're still going to get that soap opera effect. That's all bullshit. So don't give me 4K as being why 5G needs to be a thing. 4K is a whole other animal. But I can definitely admit where 4G over 3G, even though I think at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter that much. I mean, what are milliseconds or even seconds, in comparison to how long it takes you to see a website? But I can admit that, okay, there is a definite advantage between 3G and 4G to the consumer, okay, to the average, say, smartphone user. Definitely. 5G. Okay, while 4G was, could still be argued to be a pro-consumer technology, 5G is one of the first technologies I can really think of, and I'm sure there's others, but it's one of the ones that I can really think of where it's being sold off to consumers, to the everyday person, as this is the future, this is what we want. But in reality, it is really one of the first technologies it's more, how to put this? Maybe in Terminator terms, I don't know, pro-machine. It is the first technology that I can think of where it doesn't really, for the end user, there's no real advantage. But for the infrastructure that is the 5G network, okay, which if you want to call that part of the internet, you can. But let's say 5G networks, for that infrastructure and everything that's going to be connected to 5G. And like I said at the beginning of this, just about every company out there, whatever the fuck they're making, whether it's, from a microwave to a toaster to a wash machine, to a laptop, an always connected PC or some shit. Everybody's talking about 5G and then they're slapping it onto whatever the hell they're making at this time. Okay. For all of those different devices, IoT, right? Internet of Things, which, the S in IoT stands for security. But of course, as we always say, there's no S in IoT. So there's no security. Anyway, regardless, 5G is more about interconnecting all of these devices instead of you getting necessarily faster speeds and faster access to the content. And that's the thing, is that I think you're going to, I mean, you really can't serve a website today faster than what 4G does. Like it's a pointless technology. In an area with great 4G connectivity, okay, how long do you have to wait for even a 100 megabyte app? And the average app that people use, look, most people are not downloading multiple gigs of a game, okay? Because if anything, they want you streaming that shit or whatever. But the average app, I don't know, anywhere from 40 meg to topping out maybe at 200 megabytes for the average. Okay, 4G downloads that, and I mean, you don't even have time really to react. Websites come up. And you barely have time to react. If a website is slow, do you know what the problem is? The problem's not 4G. The problem is that it's loaded with fucking JavaScript. It's loaded with ads or video that automatically starts playing that you didn't ask for, didn't want, don't want, and that automatically just starts coming down. And there's no real, otherwise the website, would load instantly, even if it had a shit ton of JavaScript. Usually it's more because of those videos or something else that wants to come up. Like, the problem isn't the actual internet speed. Okay. Now, if the argument that goes with 5G, where maybe it helps the consumer, it comes down to video, but not like YouTube. YouTube works fine because there's so much trickery going on in the background at YouTube as far as codecs go and so on, that they kind of make speeds, of like 4G speeds or whatever speeds you happen to be interacting with, whatever your connectivity is, it's able to buffer and take advantage of that and make it get to you as quickly as it can. Now, I mean, granted, I'm not saying that YouTube's perfect or, and it doesn't really work fine on the back end. I mean, like I said, there is so much trickery, but the point I'm trying to make here, okay, is that what you are used to doing, the speeds that 4G allows for, are, pretty much perfect. In fact, and I know somebody's going to laugh at this, we can always use faster speeds. But that's kind of the argument I'm making, is for what? And even then, this gets to the overall point that I was trying to bring up, which is that with 5G, that content, especially mobile content, is, it's not going to show up noticeably and this is one of the big points. It's not going to show up noticeably quicker for the average consumer. It's just not. Because what it's really about is data getting shared, quote unquote, more efficiently and quicker to IoT devices and to, let's just call it the fucking surveillance state / surveillance society / surveillance economy. And really it's to expand upon that. Now, I think I just made some kind of crazy leap right there. And I'll expand on it, but we got to get this point perfectly clear about 5G. This is going longer than I expected, but fine, whatever. Okay, this is important to talk about this up-and-coming technology that's going to change everybody's fucking life. No, it's not going to change human life. It's going to change, some humans, I suppose, but not you, not the average consumer. And that's just it, is that this is getting sold as a consumer technology when there is the whole point I'm trying to bring up to you here at first is that there is no appreciable benefit to the average consumer. Okay, there just isn't. They can list off all the fucking numbers they want. You're not going to notice because the content really can't come any faster. And you could say, okay, again, like we said earlier, you could say, well, you're going to be able to get 4K better or something like that. But 4K as a technology is bullshit. That's a bullshit technology that's getting pushed on you, just like 5G. So 5G in reality, with the speeds and in a way, it almost works because of MIMO technology and other aspects. It almost works like a mesh network. The problem is it's not a mesh network that is giving you an independent network to operate from. I am very supportive of mesh networks, but that's to get interconnectivity, data sharing, and communications. That's to get them decentralized and away from centralized infrastructure that is the internet, and that is a major part of the surveillance economy. This is mesh networking being done. One of the advantages you're going to see as a consumer is that, 5G will allow your phone to work better, say, within the deep halls of Walmart. Okay, where sometimes maybe 4G doesn't get in there, okay, because there's so much interference in the way or something. 5G will get past that. So you're going to see that difference. Again, that's not the speed thing, which most people are, most consumers are being sold on 5G's speed as the advantage. This is where there is an advantage, but we need to talk about why there's an advantage. There is an advantage because because of MIMO and also the strength of the signal, 5G allows for a multitude of any IoT device, any interconnected device. This also works similar to iPhones, which they've had this for years, and we've talked about it, the multi-peer connectivity framework. Okay. That allows for where, like smartphones could effectively, you could be getting, with 5G, you could basically be getting signal from other devices and not really from towers, which is what you traditionally get it from with, say, 3G or 4G, is you get it from cell phone towers. Now with 5G, you're actually going to get it from fucking everything, from any interconnected 5G device. And this is part of the reason why everybody is putting 5G in there. But again, they're really doing it to more or less sell off to you like, oh, this is interconnected and this is smart. And I guess people are falling for this whole smart device bullshit, but fuck, don't. Because in a very real way, 5G is creating, I don't want to exactly use this term because it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to bring the nuclear apocalypse or something, but it is creating Skynet where, remember in Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, how Skynet infected everything? I mean, 5G is effectively allowing for that world where one bit of software really could, be within everything. And everything is interconnected. I mean, you're almost, that's pretty much how the internet works. It's with hardline. This is going to be completely pervasive. And it's important to recognize that when it's completely pervasive, like I said, 5G isn't going to just be running off of cell towers. Okay. It's also going to be connected pretty much everywhere. And that creates its own problems, right? Because if you remember how with cell towers, what were they? It wasn't called Reapers. They were stingrays, they're called, where basically it is it can be a few different things, but the basic gist is that there is something in flight that will effectively mimic a cell phone tower, but it will collect all of the data from your smartphone. Okay. And various, I'm sure the US government isn't the only one using something like a stingray. Okay. We talked about these years ago on Sovryn Tech, but now effectively, almost everything around you, from your microwave to, the cash register you just walked by, is effectively a stingray. Okay. In fact, it's funny. Maybe you're wondering, how far can this go? How much is this going to track me? This pervasive infrastructure, data collection, and that's really what it should be considered, is a data collection surveillance infrastructure that is 5G. Okay. Anyway, there is a point where how far this can go. I'm going to talk about it. But you've got a lot of people. An argument could be made. Well, didn't 4G already do this? Didn't 3G already do this? Yes. Which is why I call a smartphone a block of sensors in your pocket that's just collecting everything about you. You're totally right. But this is that on a whole other scale. Earlier I talked about how, you want to be careful saying terms like on a whole other level. Well, here it is on a whole other level. This is as surveillance state, as surveillance society, as surveillance economy as you could possibly get. This is about as bad as it can get. That is the importance of this. Again, there's no real, you could say, well, okay, it works better if you're in a cave, I guess, or if you're in a Walmart, same thing. If you're, it works better if you're indoors between walls, and all this 5G can take advantage of any other 5G device's connection. And that becomes an advantage for the consumer. Sure, I would also argue maybe that's a disadvantage if you can't fucking get away from the signal. But regardless of that, and someone's going to talk about some town in Virginia, I know. But anyway, but this is the thing, is that there's no, with content, and you could say in the future, well, there's going to be different content. What, 4K? Stop using that argument, because the argument for 4K is nonsense. Just like the argument for 3D and curved TVs and whatever else it's all nonsense. And basically my argument is that unlike 4G or 3G, this is just a signal that you're not going to be able to escape. And this is a surveillance system, an infrastructure that you're just not going to be able to leave, because, you just put a 5G radio in fucking everything. And that's what they're doing. It's what they're planning on. This isn't conspiracy theory. There is, the content is not, there is no really appreciable advantage, not where you should be paying for the privilege. You understand? Because that's what's so goddamn funny is you're going to be paying for this. You're paying for your own surveillance. You're going to pay top dollar for it because you got to have that fucking 5G phone. Because if you don't have a 5G phone, and maybe an iPhone if that'll ever have it, if you don't have a 5G phone, you're not going to get laid. That's the way that you think. Seriously, that's the way a ton of people think. This is so fucking bad. You are absolutely empowering. I usually like to be careful with this term too, but you are empowering your enslavement. You are empowering the entire surveillance system that supposedly privacy advocates are against. This is horrible. I mean, you know what's funny? Here's something. Again, I was just going to get into this. How pervasive this is. There's already, it's called Mimu instead of like Mimo, right? Or Mimu, maybe that's how they pronounce it, as Mimo, like Mimo. I mean, I've heard it both ways, but whatever. Anyway, there's what's called Mimu, which is going to effectively allow, through 5G, you can interact with, or would you call that engagement, with cows on farms that are tagged with 5G chips effectively. Or 5G radios. I mean, chips, I think, fits the bill, but that are tagged with that. This is a real thing. It's called Me Plus Moo. All right. And you can interact with whatever cow you want to interact with. And it's so funny because it's so apropos because 5G is for fucking cattle. And I think if you want to jump on board with this new surveillance, this surveillance on steroids infrastructure, you are just proving that point. You are no better than those cows. And I'm not a Hindu who thinks that they're the holiest creature on earth. I have an old saying that ID is for cattle. Understand that whatever devices you own that you purchased that have a 5G radio in them, I mean, that's pretty much an identifier for you, right? Like an IMSI number is an identifier for you. That's what Stingrays were going after, IMSI numbers, or, tracking by IMSI. That's the little number that you call in when you call your telco. Okay, no, I have this phone. Here's my IMSI number and all this, right? I mean, that's your ID. ID is for cattle. So is 5G. That's what I'm going to just put that out there. There's a new Sovryn Tech phrase for you. 5G is for fucking cattle. They're already tagging it on cattle. You're next. Moo. Join the crowd. Anyway, I'll be right back with some more Sovryn Tech. Woo! Or maybe I should just start saying, moo. Yeah, I'll be back. Whoa! Can you get enough of the Man of Tomorrow? I didn't think so. Well, now you're going to get even more, along with some of the hottest hosts and podcasts around, because now Sovryn Tech has become an entire network. Woo! Zomia One, the most rebellious podcast network in the galaxy, with bleeding-edge shows covering science, technology, and even pop culture. Podcasts like Sovryn Trek, bringing you the latest and greatest in everything Star Trek. TIE Fighter Renegades, a Star Wars podcast, where the Man of Tomorrow and Robin Freebeard talk Star Wars like no other show out there. The Hard and Fast podcast, where metal is king and the latest album reviews and interviews with the greatest acts in hard rock and heavy metal happen. And you can even become a member of the Zomia One Underground and get access to thousands of hours of exclusive content and shows. And this isn't Patreon, baby. Oh no, this is all happening on the premier podcast platform, Podbean. So head over to Zomia1.com, that's ZOMIAONE.com, and become a part of the future with Zomia One, and become a member of the Zomia One Underground. And while you're at it, download the Podbean app on iOS and Android. Be the future. Zomia1.com.
This week in blockchain.
Ooh, it is time to talk some blockchains. But before I do, I don't know. I imagine there's blockchain companies who are on board with 5G. I suppose I could see. The sad part is there can be like a genuine advantage to basically the concept. 5G is an implementation of mesh networking, which is really required, for the IoT future that all these tech companies are putting on us. It really is. Okay. And it totally empowers that. And don't misunderstand me. I love the idea of a good open source mesh network. Like, that needs to be a thing. The thing is that you don't want it to be the centralized data collection framework that basically 5G as we know it will be. And you sure as fuck don't want to pay for it yourself, especially when, again, there's no appreciable advantage. I know I keep saying it that way, but that's the point, is that there's no real appreciable advantage to the consumer. This is technology, it's machine to machine, not machine to consumer, like most technologies that get schlepped off to consumers are about, or supposed to be about anyway. A proper mesh network, people should have control over, and this is about the antithesis of the everyday person being in control. This is about other people, that think they're higher up. Again, they think that it's about them having control. So like I said, I don't even have to, I know there's people who raise health concerns around, what are the 5G signals that are giving us cancer and all this, people have been saying that since 3G. Actually, they've probably been saying it. They were saying it long before even that. I'm not even going there. There's no need to go there. It is painfully obvious that this is not about the consumer, and it is absolutely an anti-individual. If privacy is an inherent part of the human condition, which I believe is psychologically proven through research, it is proven that privacy is a necessity to the health of the human condition, then 5G is again, it's anti-individual. And again, it's certainly not for the consumer either. I love it. You got people, you hear it on NPR, you hear it all over the place that 5G is going to change the fucking world. Oh, this is the future. Here we go. Well, all it's really going to change is your ability to do something without someone knowing. And you have the right to that. If there are rights, you certainly have the right to privacy, and you have the right to fucking, do something in private. Good luck with that. It doesn't help that Google has been for years, and even more so now, they're talking about it as a part of future versions of Android, where, even if your device is quote unquote, again, put that in quotes, out of battery, that it can still receive signal and do so much more. We've already known about that with the voice coprocessor and so on, that it could still listen while supposedly the battery's out. There's a reason that they don't want you to have access to the battery. They don't want you to have removable batteries anymore, and why the software controls the actual battery level. So you probably have more battery. Just the software is telling you, you're under 5. We want to save the battery with that. That's horseshit. Everybody knows you should be reconditioning battery. Anyway, that's getting into a whole other conversation. I want to get to a subject here. I wanted to do a follow-up to, if you listen to the best of episode of Sovryn Tech, that was Sovryn 316 from last week. I wanted to, and ironically, the episode number was 316. How perfect was that? But I did not plan that one, folks. I really didn't. I want to talk about, or I was originally going to talk about updates to Microsoft's deals, particularly with HoloLens, with the U.S. military. And I'm sure it'll be other militaries too. But anyway, at least the U.S. military. We're not going to cover that this week because there's a story I've been meaning to get to that I really want to get to. And it's something where I think it behooves you. We're talking about how, like with mesh networking, how you want to be in control of that. A lot of what Sovryn Tech is really trying to espouse is individuals educating themselves, okay, and learning how to take control of their data. That was one of the promises of blockchain, was that you could finally control your data. You held your own keys. You could maybe even not just control it as in it could be on you could have a complete copy of it on your device and you didn't have to rely on some server in West Bumfuck, but also the fact that you could potentially, you could transport your data to, say, maybe other blockchains, or, you would have more control. Well, something that we hinted at a little while back when this whole situation went down, there was what is continually being seen as a mysterious death, and I want to talk about it a little bit more, the mysterious death of the CEO of QuadrigaCX, which was a cryptocurrency exchange where basically here's how the story goes. And this has been going on. The story has really been covered and uncovered and new data coming out probably for the past month, past couple months really. But you had a guy, Gerald Cotton, who's the CEO of QuadrigaCX, this exchange, and he supposedly, and I use that term, supposedly dies. And he apparently was the only person that had access to the $190 some odd million in funds, what equated to that, of crypto, that, clients of the exchange of QuadrigaCX had stored there. And so he died. He apparently was the only one with the password. He's dead. And so it's gone. And so effectively $190 million is just taken or lost. Yeah, I mean, I guess the claim right now would be lost, but lost by all of these users of QuadrigaCX. Now, funny things start to happen, and there's a lot more. Now, a lot of people might not know this. In fact, News BTC kind of did a whole write-up about the matter. There's a link in the show notes for it. That talks about how in India specifically, and there's other parts of the world where this is a thing too, but in India is definitely a very popular thing. And what they're called are death certificate mafias. Okay, where you can go to India and you pay the right people, you pay the right amount of money to some doctor there, and they will claim that you are legally dead. You're not dead. You go there, you want to, for whatever reason, you want to get out of, get out of some situation. You want, debts to be, off your back, whatever the fuck it is. The reason that you want to, it sounds like an old Superman episode with George Reeves. I mean, you want to die effectively, but not really die, right? And go on and start your new life. This is a very popular bit of business in India. The Indian government is well aware of it and has tried to shut it down in major, cities, Mumbai, so on. And the claim is, or theory going, because this guy, Gerald Cotton, he effectively went to India. In fact, to a city, I think it's Jaipur. I think that might be how you pronounce it. Okay. Which is, it's a small town, but maybe a death certificate mafia is still there. He claims he's going there. He gets everything in order. I mean, this is kind of the claim. In fact, here's a quote from, here's from a Redditor here. Okay. Quote, Cotton is having financial troubles at his company, which is true. QuadrigaCX was having financial troubles. So he travels to India to work on an orphanage, because that's the claim that he made. While suffering from Crohn's, he decided to go to India, because that's the other claim, is that he had Crohn's disease. He was, really bad. Gets married and sets up a will within a month of his quote unquote death, manages to set up a plan, $100,000 worth, for his 2 dogs so that they're taken care of, doesn't think to make sure the nearly $200 million his exchange watches is also taken care of. Yeah, really. I mean, it's a great point. Well said in a very, succinct way. That, wow, this guy gets all of his affairs in order. He has all these problems, supposedly has Crohn's disease, whatever. And he can't think to give somebody else the fucking password, to all of the, to the wallets at his exchange, holding some out $190 million. Now it's come out. There have been independent auditors. Coinbase got involved in the matter and looked into it. They also hired Ernst & Young to look into it. And it turns out the wallets in question that are supposedly that Gerald Cotton died off with, or, died with the key for, or the keys for, those wallets, they were emptied 8 months ago. There's nothing there. Like, so even for QuadrigaCX to claim, well, we can't get access to it, there's no money there to begin with. I mean, this is fishy as fuck. And if you're going to ask me to go out on a limb and say whether or not Gerald Cotton is actually dead, if he actually died, and that, this is just those poor QuadrigaCX customers, they're just out of their money. Oh no, I think this is a scam all the way. I think Gerald Cotton is probably, very, very much alive. If he's not alive, that money went to something that was, under his purview and where he wanted it to go to benefit someone else. I think this is intent. I mean, that's my call. That's what I'm interpreting here. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Longtime listeners of Sovryn Tech know me. Like, I don't want anybody dead. And I mean, like, in that sense, because of my opposition to lethality, I almost hope Gerald Cotton's alive, but I mean, this is theft straight up. That's my opinion on it. Now, we can talk about that all the time. We can speculate on that, and, whatever fact-finding missions, are going on, I'm sure there's going to be more very shady shit that's going to come up around this. But let's talk about, well, how do you keep this from happening to you? Well, let's talk about it. I'll tell you what you do. Here's the thing. I mean, I get it. Okay. You put, you get some Bitcoin, you go on an exchange, you maybe invest in a little bit of a pump and dump, or you're getting excited about some kind of, whatever the new coin happens to be or something, and you want to get in on that. And so you have to use an exchange. Well, first off, you don't have to use an exchange anymore, right? I mean, there's plenty of ways. I mean, what's an exchange? I mean, you don't have to use an exchange that actually holds your money. There's plenty of ways. I mean, shapeshift.io style stuff out there where, I mean, and there's other ones besides Shapeshift where you can switch into, perhaps some new coin. Okay. Fine. Make the exchange it for the new hot coin that you want, and then pull pull that new hot coin and pull whatever you put into the exchange and keep that on your, on your local machines, on your hardware wallet or whatever wallet you had to install to allow that hot new coin, to operate on your machine, whatever. I get it. I get that people might want to do that. And that's a completely legitimate use of an exchange. Want to be careful with the word legitimate. That is a completely understandable. How about that? It's a completely understandable use of an exchange. But otherwise, like the idea of leaving money on an exchange and playing that game, look, I get it. I understand. I've done this myself where I have, played a bit of the exchange game. Okay. With crypto, years ago, I know how that goes. But in my opinion, the real thing to do here, is, as I've said before, if you don't want to do a hardware wallet, some kind of trusted wallet, you store that shit on a trusted wallet. Okay. Whatever. I mean, if it's a software solution, whatever, you're not storing on an exchange. You do not store. The only thing you store on an exchange is what you're willing to lose. And if this kind of a QuadrigaCX situation happens, okay, then just shut your mouth, because you should have only put up there what you're willing to lose and you lost it. Whatever the reality of the situation is. I mean, yeah, can you try and do some due diligence and get your hands on your money back? I suppose. But understand that you should have only been playing with what you were willing to lose. Are you going to get mad about it? Yeah, sure. But understand. So there's that. I mean, and everybody tells you that with investing. Always only invest what you're willing to completely lose at any given moment. Because this kind of stuff, and look, this isn't just crypto that this shit happens to. This happens in every traditional finance tool out there. This is not unique to crypto. So before anybody says that, well, don't invest in crypto. No. No one's saying that. Okay, but here's the real deal is why don't we get out of this whole exchange game with this? And instead, let's actually just sure, if you want to, turn Bitcoin into Zcash or something like that, well, sure. But believe in the fucking technology that you're exchanging into. And then store and hold. Or store and hodl, whatever the fuck you want to, however you want to say it. That's the real way that this is what kills me. When Bitcoin became about being more of like a speculative investment tool instead of something that fucking gets used or at least just stored. I mean, like Bitcoin is in many ways, Bitcoin proper has in many ways become digital gold. Like that's just whether that was the intention or not, that's what it is morphed into. And I think that is fine and dandy. All right. And as far as like its value going up and down, I mean, hey, okay, that's going to happen. That's the nature of currencies. That sort of thing goes down. But it needs to be that usable tool at the same time. It needs to be that technology that you believed in or that you do continue to believe in. And if you need to exchange it out into cash or whatever, fine then. There's a purpose for that and there's a reason. But it's not playing some fucking game. I don't know what happened. We stopped believing in this stuff and it turned into something completely different. Like I love Bitcoin. I love Zcash because I believe in the technologies and what they provide for the everyday person, for the individual. That's what I love about it. I do not give a shit about whether or not, look, I'm going to hold Bitcoin if it's at 100, if it's at $1, if it's at $100,000, or if, as I agree with Tim Draper on this, if it's $250,000 in a couple of years or however many years, okay, in the 2020s, I'm going to hold it no matter what it is. And I'm going to use it no matter what it is. Zcash, I'm going to fucking hold on to it and I'm going to use it no matter what the fuck the price is because I believe in the technology. The value of it is a secondary feature. And it would behoove us to get back into that mindset. And then this kind of horse shit doesn't happen because you aren't, risking your life's wealth. Okay, your savings or whatever else. Because there's some sad stories coming out of this QuadrigaCX. Don't misunderstand me. I feel bad for these people. But there's some really sad stories coming out of this. But look, if you're not, the concept of blockchain was that Everything can be done client side. You could have direct control of this technology. That's the point of decentralization, is you have control. If you are just going to hand it all over to these exchanges, this is the kind of shit that can happen. As to where if you keep it under control yourself, is that hard? Are you going to have to install a bunch of pain in the ass software, to do that? Or you're going to have to spend, a couple $100 on a hardware wallet? Oh, boo-hoo. This is about doing this technology right. There's ways to do it. And I feel like playing this exchange game and everything. This has happened too many times over and over again. And people are still fucking rolling the dice by going with these exchanges and by rocking them. I mean, can we get decentralized exchanges? Can we get something where you have more direct control over what you're doing with the exchanges? Sure. And you're not trusting, say, a CEO who would be the only person with the password and could just die. I mean, my hope is, and I know the community is in line with this. Like, there's the idea of, once a year you pull out everything out of an exchange to keep the exchanges solvent, right? Like, was it Trace Meyer came up with that idea? Like, I understand. I mean, that's a great thing to do too. But I say just fuck the exchanges, or at least as they stand, these centralized exchanges, which is what they are. Keep control of your money. Keep control of your data. That's been very much a theme of this entire episode. Do it. Fuck these exchanges. Man, I mean, if you want to change it into the new hotness, that new hot coin that you're so excited about, do it because you believe in the technology, not because it's a fucking pump and dump, not because of any of that. Man. Again, the beauty of blockchain, or the beauty of Bitcoin specifically, the beauty of Bitcoin was that this was not a government issued money. You finally owned something that was not granted by the powers that be, whoever they happen to be around planet Earth, was not granted by them, but was granted by your own belief in the technology, your own use of the technology, and you could hold it for yourself, and it's something that you genuinely owned on your own. It was not something that held value because it came from fucking on high. It came from you. Because you held onto it yourself. You did not go and give it to some exchange. You did not give somebody the power to steal from you like this. That was the other beauty of it. The encryption, the security baked into these, into so many, not just Bitcoin, but many other ones where there's so much security baked into it. Well, take hold of that security. Don't hand the shit over to other people. Keep your shit. I've said this over the years, go local. Yeah, go local data. Buy local, not buy local, but keep it local. Yeah, keep it local. Keep your data local, for fuck's sake. And if you got to go buy a 5 terabyte hard drive to hold all those blockchains, then by all goddamn means you do it, because otherwise you're going to be out $190 million. How about that? Anyway, we'll be right back with some more Sovryn Tech. Oh yeah, this is fishy as shit, but it's a lesson on how to handle your, how to store your value and your wealth. We'll be right back with more. Woo! Hey, you want to know a great platform where you can talk about all this stuff? You can call into the show that you control. That's Free Talk Live. Go to freetalklive.com. It is the number 27 talk show in the United States. How can you go wrong with that? And honestly, it's the only libertarian show on radio. It's everywhere. It's a huge audience. You want to talk about it. You want to get other people talking about this kind of thing. That's where you want to go. Go to freetalklive.com. Okay. Listen in. 7 nights a week, 3 hours a day. It's crazy. There's so much to talk about. There's so much to hear. Go to freetalklive.com. Start downloading episodes. You're going to know what I mean. And I thank them for sponsoring Sovryn Tech. Woo!
The Climax.
I still need to do that review of Sheena. I fucking love that movie. Anyway, I will get to the review of Sheena, but that's not what I want to talk about right now. We have a few minutes left to the show, just a few minutes. And so earlier you heard an announcement / ad for Zomia 1. Zomia 1 is exactly what that ad was saying, what that announcement was saying. It is a network. Sovryn Tech's still going to exist, but Sovryn Tech is now just a show on the Zomia One network. Now, here's the thing I want you to understand. There is an RSS feed change. Okay, some of it's going to automatically feed out, but to where you won't lose it. But there is an RSS feed change, okay, to Zomia One. You want to go to Zomia1.com, get the new RSS feed. In fact, the best thing you can do is just start using the Podbean app. Okay, they have a podcast app. It's full featured. It's got, where you can listen to things at 2x or whatever. You can increase the volume, or you can trim silence. I know a lot of people like to do that with me because I'm big on my pregnant pauses, much like William Shatner. But that's about the best thing you can do, because I don't know about you. In fact, I talked about this on a Wednesday Q&A, which, by the way, all of those are available now. If you join the Zomia One Underground, you can get access to the Wednesday Q&A, and you can ask me questions because you can comment within the Podbean app on episodes themselves. It's so slick. It's such a great system. So it gets me away from Patreon, okay, for one, which people are leaving Patreon en masse and whatever. Some, I kind of understand it, but anyway, that's what's happening with that. So this is your opportunity. If you still want to get access to that thousands of hours of extra content and new content that comes out exclusively to Zomia One Underground members, or what used to be Sovryn Tech patrons, this is how you can do it. And you can do it all within that very handy app. But I was talking about on the Wednesday Q&A, my favorite podcast app. Okay, and I know and I'm an Android user, but I know a lot of iOS users, it was also their favorite podcast app, is Pocket Casts. Well, Pocket Casts came out of beta with version 7, and version 7 completely changed that app. And it is a confusing mess. The UX sucks. The UI sucks. They've gotten rid of certain features. There's certain data points that they've gotten rid of. I fucking hate it. And so it's almost, I didn't know that was happening. I've been planning on launching the Zomia One network actually for a couple of years now. And now it's finally happening. It's finally out there. Okay. And you can go to Zomia1.com and you can start signing up for it now. There's still episodes getting uploaded to it, but come next week, every episode of Sovryn Tech is going to be coming out on that. So you're going to want to jump on there. Okay. And you're going to want to get that new RSS feed just to be sure. All right. But anyway, the features that I loved about Pocket Casts are all in the Podbean app. So it's a fine, podcast app on its own. You don't even really, even if you don't use the Podbean only features, like the Podbean patron features that I was just talking about by joining the Zomia One Underground and getting access to exclusive episodes, even if you don't use that, it's a rock solid podcast app. And Podbean is a rock solid podcast company. They've been doing it for over a decade. They're not going anywhere, because that was my other concern too, is SoundCloud has some very ugly shit going on, and it's questionable, just how stable they are to continue to use. And a lot of podcasters are leaving it. So myself included, just like a lot of people are leaving Patreon because they're concerned that Patreon's going to bring down the hammer. Well, as far as I know, Podbean has not done that. So it's part of the reason that I've switched over. But if you want to get access to that content, to that exclusive content, or you just want all of these, there's going to be so many shows on Zomia One. If you want to get all of that, go to the new feed, get your hookup. Okay, just go to Zomia1.com to get the feed. Or like I said, you can look that up if you download the Podbean app, and it'll all be right there for you. I am so excited for this. We are absolutely growing this show and just turning it into so much more. I am so excited for this. I hope all of you want to join me on this journey. The thousands and thousands of Sovryn Tech listeners. Baby, there's going to be so much Manna Tomorrow on there. There's going to be other hosts. It's going to be fucking, it already is awesome. Go check it out, Zomia1.com. Anyway, that is it for this episode of Sovryn Tech. We'll wrap this baby up right here. I will see all of you at Zomia One. Come join me, and I'll see all of you on the other side. Woo!
You just experienced Sovryn Tech. Go to sovryntech.com, that's SOVRYN tech.com, and connect with us there. Find links from today's show and catch our podcast feed. Sovryn Tech is copy heart. Copying art is an act of love, and love is not subject to law. So please share the show however you like. Welcome to the evolution.